Hello everyone, my name is Lola Afalabi. I am the founder of Healthy Credit Habits, and today is, you guessed it, Fix It Friday. I'm super excited for the weekend. I don't know about you. I hope everyone had a wonderful and exciting and restful 4th of July, fireworks, family fun celebration, whatever the case may be. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. So today's topic is how to read a credit report. Let me ask you a question. How many of you out there know how to read your own credit report? How many of you are able to spot the inconsistencies or inaccuracies that are on your own report that could be costing you anywhere from 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 or more points that you're not getting credited for? It's safe to say that a lot of consumers out there, even if they were looking at their own credit report, they could not spot the inaccuracies or the inconsistencies in information that could be holding them back from a better interest rate, a lower mortgage payment, and what have you. So today my goal is to go over not only what the Fair Credit Reporting Act is, as far as what it pertains to disputing information on your consumer credit file, but what the responsibility is of the credit bureaus. And then also I'd like to go into a sample trade line from an active client that I'm working with who has inconsistencies on their own credit report that we're working with right now. So let's dive right in. So this is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's a very lengthy document. However, I did want to call out some important pieces as it pertains to today's presentation. And I'll read a little bit of it, not everything, but just the important pieces I think are worthy to note for today. If the completeness or accuracy of any item or information contained in a consumer's file at a consumer reporting agency is disputed by the consumer, and the consumer notifies the agency directly, the agency shall free of charge conduct a reasonable reinvestigation to determine whether the disputed information is inaccurate and record the current status of the disputed information or delete the item from the file. So that means that if you send a letter or contact the credit bureaus to let them know, I have a concern or there's an issue, there's something wrong with my credit report, here is what's wrong with it, supporting information, they have a responsibility to investigate that and to take action. Furthermore, with regards to their treatment of inaccurate or unverifiable information, if after any reinvestigation, any information disputed by a consumer is found to be inaccurate or incomplete or cannot be verified, the consumer reporting agency shall promptly delete that item of information from the file of the consumer or modify the information. So what that means is there's some very important words here in this paragraph that I just spoke to. If the information is found to be A, inaccurate, B, incomplete, C, cannot be verified, those are three distinct things, right? Incomplete, inaccurate, cannot be verified. It has to be deleted from the consumer credit file. Now, I know many of you out there, how many of you can raise your hand and say, I have some stuff that's incomplete on my credit report, I have some stuff that's inaccurate, and I have some stuff that can't be verified, but it's still showing on my credit report? Well, it shouldn't be, per the Fair Credit Reporting Act. How many of you can safely say that you can identify the incomplete information on your credit report? I know that many consumers didn't even know that if your credit file that's being reported is not complete, it should not be reported per law. We'll go into it. So this is an active credit trade line for a client of mine who we're working with right now. A lot of the personal identifying information has been highlighted or blurred out just from a privacy perspective, but there are some important things here in red that I'd like to go over briefly to give you an idea of what many clients or consumers can see on their credit report that they don't know, or they don't know what they're looking at, they don't know what they're looking for, they don't know if it's complete, incomplete, inaccurate, verifiable, whatever the case may be. So we'll take it from the top. So up top here we have the account number. Now across all three bureaus, if your account is being reported by Chase, the account number should be consistent across all three bureaus. Wouldn't you agree? Well, with TransUnion, apparently the account number is either incomplete or it's not consistent with the other two bureaus as they reported it. Then that raises the question, well, why did 2 out of the 3 bureaus get it right? Well, that's a good question, but there's some incompleteness or inaccuracy here that TransUnion is not consistent with Experian and Equifax. So that's something that you should look for on your credit report when you're kind of combing through to find out where things don't match up. We see the account type, it's revolving, so that information is pretty consistent. The account type detail, so this gives the specifics of what type of revolving account it is, and in this case, this is a credit card. However, with Equifax, we have that information missing. So it's why did Experian and TransUnion provide or fill in this information that it is a credit card and Equifax didn't? So there's that incompleteness that we previously talked about on the previous slide. The bureau code, as far as this is an individual account, if it were a joint account, it would say joint, but that is pretty consistent. The status, derogatory, well, they seem to always get that right? That's consistent. In addition to that, the monthly payment, that information is consistent, but when we get down to the date it was opened. Now, the date that your account was opened with a issuer, a bank, whomever it may be, that date does not change. That date is consistent. That date is in stone. So we have Experian and Equifax that are reporting this account open date as February 1st of 2011. However, TransUnion is reporting it as February the 5th. Now, you may often wonder, well, what difference does it make, you know, the 1st, the 5th, what have you. There are important things to note that even your account being a day off, $1 off, a couple of cents off, your account could be mismatched with someone else or vice versa, and now your credit account is bearing someone else's credit reporting derogatory information just because of a snafu in a date. So all of this information has to be complete. All of them should say February 1st, or they should all say February 5th, but based on what we're seeing right here, it appears that TransUnion, their information, someone either hand-jammed it, but it's not consistent, and these things should be challenged for completeness and accuracy. The balance was consistent across all three bureaus, so there was no issue there. The terms, they're all 0, so there's no issue there. The high credit limit, so this is the amount, the highest amount ever charged on the account. That information is not consistent where Experian is not showing anything. However, Equifax and TransUnion are. So that can also play a role with regards to looking at your utilization. If the credit bureaus don't have a idea of what your highest amount ever used, when other creditors are looking to issue you or grant you credit, they can't see what your capacity has been in the past, and they may offer you something lower than what you necessarily are able to manage from a credit standpoint. When we go into the credit limit, so we have 2 of the 3 reporting properly. Experian is showing 500. TransUnion is not, so the credit limit is missing here. That information should be included. The past due amount, again, $855, that is consistent. So they always seem to get certain pieces of information correct here where it matters the most. However, other areas, not so much. Payment status, they got that updated or consistent as well, a collection charge-off account. So this is where the original creditor has ceased activity, or they've transitioned it over to a collection agency to see if they can recoup those funds. In addition to that, let's move on to the date of last reported. That information should also be consistent. We have one as 11/2, one as 11/1, the third as 11/3. This information should all be the same because the reporting date doesn't matter. It's one of those things where they send this information electronically, so there's no reason why this information should be different from one bureau to the next, and they're off by like a day. The comment section. So the comments are inconsistent, so it can be confusing actually if you don't know what you're reading. It can often cause you to scratch your head like, okay, so what exactly happened here? So with Experian, their comment is account has been closed due to inactivity. Unpaid balance reported as a loss by the credit grantor. So, okay, the account has been closed due to inactivity. Was it inactivity and there was an unpaid balance? Like, which one was it? Then we have Equifax. They're reporting charged off account closed by grantor. Okay, TransUnion, charged off as bad debt, canceled by credit grantor. So this information is not consistent. They're saying the account was closed due to inactivity and then there was an unpaid balance. The Equifax report is stating that it was charged off, that the account was just closed by the issuer. TransUnion is stating that it was charged off as bad debt, canceled by the credit grantor. So this information can be somewhat misleading to the untrained eye or the untrained consumer. So these are things where you do have to challenge, well, what was it? Was the account closed due to inactivity, or was it due because there was a past due amount that was just never paid for? Those are things worth questioning. Most consumers don't, but you're well within your right to challenge and question everything that is reported on your report because it is impacting your credit score. Date of last activity. Now, the date of last activity, that should be pretty consistent. It shouldn't change. However, you find here that Experian has a DLA of 7/1/2012. Then you have Equifax 12/1/2011. Then you have TransUnion 7/3/2012. Well, this clearly is questionable. These are things that you are within your right. If you're fixing your credit yourself, you can print off a copy of your report and highlight those things to say, okay, well, which one is it? You know, and it has to be accurate, complete, and verifiable. So they need to go back to Chase to find out what was the date of last activity on this account, which would typically be around when they decided to cease collection activities on it and then move it over to a collection agency to pursue collection activities. Date of last payment. We have the date of last payment 11/16/2011. Equifax, we have 12/1/2011. We have TransUnion 11/16/2011. So, I mean, just by process of elimination, clearly Equifax has some information that is not consistent with the other two. In addition to, it also raises into question, if you look back at the date of last activity, that information is questionable as well because they're using the DLA date as the last payment date or vice versa. But either way, that date or these dates are not consistent with the other two bureaus. So it's things like this that, you know, have a bearing, have an impact on your credit score, because if you can imagine, this is just one account. Can you imagine multiple accounts? Can you imagine accounts on your credit report that are duplicate accounts that are impacting you more than once? So it does take time to kind of look through these things. However, you will find that as you start to clean these things up, you start to add points back onto the scoreboard of your credit report, of your credit score, where now you're kind of seeing some, you know, flickers of hope as far as getting that credit score inching up, adding more points. You're getting out of that 500, you're moving into the 600, you're moving into the 700. But it's things like this that can impact you and hold you down. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you won't know how to address those problems. So the next question is, okay, so we discussed the Fair Credit Reporting Act, discussed the responsibilities of the credit bureaus. We've kind of gone over a live trade account that is currently being disputed or worked through. The question really is now, what should I do if I have errors on my credit report? Well, you can really contact the bureaus yourself. And you can do that in writing. That's definitely the most suggested or preferred method. And the reason for this is it allows you to have some traceability, to have an audit trail of the communication that you sent something out. And the credit bureaus have 30 days from the date that they receive your dispute to conduct a reasonable investigation. And if they're unable to do so within those 30 days, then they have to, by law, delete that information from your credit report. Next up, you can also contact the creditor who reported the information. So you may be in a situation where the credit bureaus will come back and say, yep, that information was verified, it is accurate, it is complete, and it's not. You can reach out to the creditor that reported the information and figure out what's going on. Why is this information being reported on me, especially if you paid the bill or you weren't aware that there was a bill. You find this a lot in cases of medical debt, where a lot of medical line items or collections show up on a client's credit report. They often don't know that their account is in collections. So those are things where you do have a recourse to reach out to the original creditor that reported it, because that's how it ended up on your credit report to begin with. In addition to that, through this process, as the credit bureaus are reinvestigating your dispute, and let's say they have deleted or updated that information, they do owe you a updated copy of your credit report. So you can request in writing an updated copy of your credit report that they send it not only to you, but to also anyone that has requested a copy of your credit report within the past 6 months. And to that point, they can also, or you can request that they resend that information to any employer who has requested your credit report within the last 2 years. So those are things that many consumers don't know about, but you can request that they do that, because if they were reporting wrong information and they've now cleaned it up, they have a responsibility to furnish the updated report to those requestors during the 6-month credit period or the 2-year employment period in which your credit report was pulled. Last but not least, you can always seek professional services, from someone such as myself, who is a credit score specialist. It's our job. That's what we do. We have a trained eye. We understand what to look for. We understand the Fair Credit Reporting Act. We understand other laws that tie into the credit reporting process as it pertains to collections and things like that. So you're not on your own. It's one of those things where you're definitely free to do it yourself, but sometimes there does come a point where it may be too much to handle or too complex to know how to approach it, what route to take. So you do have professional individuals who are specialized in the area of credit score restoration that can help. So last but not least, this really concludes our briefing for today. I enjoyed sharing this information with you. Stay tuned for what we have next week. I'm excited. I don't even know what we're going to have myself. However, I hope that today's information was super helpful, super informative. If you found it helpful, definitely like this post. Feel free to share it. Feel free to comment. And if you have any questions, you can definitely send me a direct message. You can feel free to email me. And definitely stay tuned. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on YouTube. and also on Instagram. I'll be posting this video out on my YouTube channel as well for individuals who want to go there and check it out. But remember, last but not least, that with healthy credit, life is less expensive. Take care. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.